So Vander takes Vi aside to speak to her about what he has heard and what has happened. And Vi, who pretty much is the leader of the kids there, is very defensive about what has happened. And what's really interesting about it is that, I think that Vi felt perfectly justified in doing this heist. I think that she felt that she had to do something like this. And the idea of her saying, or thinking that, you know, Piltover, everybody in Piltover it's like the land of plenty. And then when you look at where they live,
That's all.
clearly
Yeah.
it's certainly not the same environment. And I think she probably is right. I have a feeling that that a lot of, if they did take a lot of things, maybe perhaps not in the Caraman's place, but in another place, they wouldn't be missed. But you and I both know that this particular place that they went to steal from is not an ordinary it's
No.
not an ordinary place, is it?
No.
And so of all places for them to pick, they picked something that was very unusual. We also see that you know more or less everybody seems to be very upset with Powder. And
Yeah.
I personally
We have
think,
that discussion between Milo and Vi about it. That Milo thinks she's not up to the task.
yes, and I personally feel like that was unfair to Powder because she is just a child. And something that this particular series definitely focuses on is the fact of how difficult these children's lives are,
Yeah.
that they have to kind of worry about where they're going to get money from. And this seems to be something that may be a regular occurrence for them, where they have to kind of go into Piltover or find someplace to kind of get goods so that
And
they can be
you couldn't
fenced.
imagine what those magic crystal balls are capable of.
Yes, yes. And that was something that is really fascinating because Powder seems to be the person who has these crystals,
Yeah.
and it's the only thing that can tie the entire group back to the heist.
Nice,
And I
yeah.
call it the
And it's the
heist.
only thing left from the heist.
Absolutely, it's the only thing left from the heist, and it's probably the most valuable thing that
Yeah.
that has
Right.
been
And
lifted, isn't it?
what I totally didn't think about, perhaps correctly, Venda puts some stuff in the bag, and he goes to his friend Benzo's, and I think he's already knew that someone has to take the blame for it. So I don't know if he's purposefully filling the bag with some, more chunk, just to keep the appearance that he was involved in it.
Oh, that's
So
interesting. So you think
so
he wants to take the blame?
yeah, he's putting stuff in the bag, and then he goes to Benzo's. So probably, I don't know if he wanted to keep his some appearance that he was actually the one behind the heist. That he's
He
already thinking about taking the fall for the kids. Perhaps, I don't know about it.
Yeah, he always seems to want to rectify situations, and
Yeah.
he knows that this is a big one because when he sees his friend says, "Oh yes, half of the underworld and all of Piltover has heard about this heist by 4 children."
Yeah.
And they're very aware that it's children who did this. One other interesting part as well is the young boy Little Man, who is
Yeah.
the source that they heard, that Vi and the group had heard about this location, talks about how he knew about this place. And he goes on to explain that he found out about the man because this particular gentleman came into the shop in the underworld
Yeah. Yeah.
and bought stuff that he overcharged him for, and then he followed him home. And I thought that was very interesting. He's kind of,
Yeah.
whoever this gentleman is that went and made this purchase, felt he had to go to the underworld to get very specific items. And, that would indicate that he's maybe meddling in stuff that he's not supposed to be meddling in.
Yeah. And considering Vanda goes to Benzo's, which seemed to me a little bit like a pawn shop, where you
Yes.
can pawn stuff, and he already knows Benzo. And like you said, the little kid, the young Echo. So if you would play the game, the people who plays the game already know that Echo is a famous character in the game. But here you see him at a very young age. So people who plays the game who have a little bit more knowledge than the two of us already knew that this one would be a big character in the episodes up ahead. That he would be coming back. And then we have the nice talk between Benzo and Venda about the stuff, and then the two enforcers come down to Benzo's pawn shop.
Yeah, it's very scary seeing those enforcers because of what we know they represent, especially to the people in the underworld. That can really just kind of ruin their lives even more, or make it even harder than it has to be. And another very interesting part of this is that as the enforcers enter, the shop, one of them happens to be a sheriff enforcer, and it turns out that as she's speaking to Vander,
they know
that she has
they have some kind of
with him.
Yeah, they have some kind of mutual respect for each other, where they know each other from the war, perhaps, or some thing like that. We don't know, but they respect each other and their boundaries. And she tells him the name of the sheriff is Grayson, who is voiced by, I probably butcher her name, but I totally think it's one of the greatest voices ever, from Shorey Agdashlu, who is in The Expanse.
Yes, I do remember her from The
president.
Expanse, and her fantastic
she is
clothes
one of
as
the
well in that show.
she is one of the greatest voices. 3 whiskey bottles and 2 packs of smoke. She is one of the. She was one of the voices that I recognized.
Yes, I recognized
from
right
hearing her.
too.
Oh, I know her.
Yes,
but they have a mutual respect. They know each other from somewhere, perhaps in the war. And they each knows the boundaries of the others. But she says she needs someone to take the blame for the heist, or she would come down with more enforcers.
Yes, and that's when we learned that the shop belongs to a family called the Caraman. And, apparently they are very important. This was a very important family or owner. And it's not like it's something that can just sort of like be sort of pushed aside and said, we don't care. There has to be some sort of example made, because the Caramans are very important people in Piltover. And so, that's when we realized that this isn't over by a long shot. And there's going to be someone who's going to have to pay the price, as you said, for what's happened. And we see a scene where Vi starts to talk to her sister and trying to encourage her how everyone messes up sometimes. And I think that this is such an inspiring moment, because at that point we see where Vi kind of says, one of these days, people are going to have respect for us. They're going to, not treat us so poorly, and we're going to have a better life. And it's an inspiring speech. But at the same time, it also feels like she has so many mountains to climb, Dieter.
Yeah. And this brings us a little bit back to the shop. So Grayson gives Venda this little bit of pipe. If he would change his mind, he probably already had changed his mind. He could contact her before it would get way more out of hand. And like you said, they did a heist on some famous family. But considering the inventor, he's probably more upset that some of the magic crystal balls have disappeared, and he has less magic crystal balls that he can tamper with.
Well,
and probably nobody even in Piltover did know what he was working on.
Exactly. And as at some point Powder does show her sister Vi these crystals, these crystals that she has, and Vi says, we better not tell Vander about this. We can't tell him about this. Let's just
they're just extremely cool from the animation style.
Yes. And Certainly. And it's something special. We still don't know everything that these crystals can
No.
do. I mean, we've seen that incredible explosion already, but truly there's so much deeper understanding and deeper meaning with these crystals. So they are something very special. And I think even Vi, who doesn't completely understand what they can do, knows the value of them. So she says, we just keep them. We won't tell anybody. And just to leave it alone. And you had mentioned how there are other people in the underworld who are looking at Vander, especially at a moment like this, where they feel he's not doing enough for the people in the underworld. And despite Vander being the sort of de facto leader of the underworld, we do see other people in the underworld who want to take Vander's place.
Yeah, and that leads us probably to the last scene of the first episode, because we see Deckard again, who we just thought was just some leader of the street gang, was not involved specifically with anyone, but we see him again where he is questions by Silco and his men. And Silco is, like I told you already, is a character that you could not play in the game. So he is totally a new character that they invented for the series. And then we see that Deckard had some was I believe hired by Silco to have a lookout what is going on up there. And Silco is one of the great characters of the first season, with
He
his
really is.
with his damaged eye that he has to carefully medicate it with the other magic that is, as far as I know, is called Shimmer, and we get that last great scene where he puts the cat in the box, and you think, oh, it's feeding time, and you see the little rat or mouse, and she takes some sip of that little nice fluid with some shimmer in it. When we didn't see the outcome, but we know it's not the cat that's comes out of the box.
It certainly is incredibly violent transformation of this small mouse or rodent or rat that attacks a much larger or what would normally be a much stronger cat, and is just completely destroyed as after having taken the shimmer substance. And so Silco
is ready for a human subject now to test it out. And Deckard is the perfect candidate for it. Lead of the street trucks.
And Silco, after kind of speaking to Deckard and learning from Deckard that it's Vi and Powder and her friends who did the heist, Silco feels very happy about this because he knows that he can kind of use this against Vander, or that Vander is sort of in a difficult position.
You already have a feeling he and Vander are connected in some shape or form too.
That is an excellent point. And, the fact that he had to send Deckard to spy on, let's say, Vander and anybody who's connected to him, which would include the children, indicates that Silco is very connected to him, or feels that there has to be some way that he can monitor what Vander is doing, because Silco I have a feeling Silco wants to move up in the underworld, so to speak.
And understandably. So.
Yes.
But so in later episodes, did other people below him wanted to climb up the ladder.
Absolutely. And we see that there's that power struggle going on. We also are introduced to this product, and it's like a purple, it's in the vial that they show
called Shimmer, Shimmer against the blue magic. The blue magic that's is the strong power in Piltover. We have those two against each other.
And it seems like it might go, this particular product that Silco has developed, with I guess his friend who's a scientist, and it's not a surprise.
Which we will learn about it a little bit later in other episodes.
Absolutely. It's not a surprise that they would develop a drug like this, because apparently,
like you said, it's also some sort of a drug
Yes.
exactly.
Apparently, this particular place where they live is actually, the seat of, they're sort of like the very important when it comes to science. Like they're very, it just so happens that maybe it is just everybody on this planet happens to be very, very good at science and technology. So by him developing something like this, he obviously has some sort of plan for it. And I don't think it has anything to do with rats or cats.
No.
Um,
Like you said,
and
he has his first human subject in mind already,
yes,
which will
and
become Deckard.
which ironically, seems kind of cruel to do that to a person, doesn't it,
Yeah.
Dieter?
Yeah. But you have, at some point, you have to go the next step in the trials,
Yes, yes, and this is going to be, a trial by fire for
Yeah.
poor Deckard, who has been, chosen as the guinea pig, the
Yeah.
human guinea pig for this particular
Yeah.
study. So
And so,
honestly,
and so for me, I was already in after the first episode. Some series you need to take 2 or 3 episodes to know about your feeling about the show. Is it for you? Is it not for you? Is the spark already connecting to you? But Arcane was, after the first episode, I was in completely. I didn't have to think about it twice. Will I watch the show going forward? No, it was immediately click next episode.
I felt the same way as well, and I got a sense that what made it so incredibly interesting is obviously these characters. While the
Yeah,
story is wonderful, these characters are incredibly interesting, and you are rooting for them, and you're rooting for them in different ways. You want Powder and Vi to have a better life,
yeah.
you know.
And
Um,
and like I said, the young Echo, we already have seen in the opening credits. But for us who don't play the game, we don't know that this one in the opening credits will become Echo.
Yes. And even a character like Silico,
Yeah,
you're kind of looking at him as right at this point, it's almost like he's someone who's doing this. He's an entrepreneur and he's created this item and we don't really know what he's going to do with it. But even he, even though he's, like an underworld, pretty much crime
crime
lord or
boss.
bully
Yeah,
for all practical purposes, even he has gained some sort of support from, like, while you're watching this, because you're kind of curious as to what he's going to do with this, and he's trying his best to kind of climb up and make things better for himself. And then of course, we also see that if there was some kind of deal from the beginning of the show, when we saw the enforcers fighting Vander, and then
yeah,
at the end of this episode, we learned that there was a deal that was made. We also learned that we want Vander to kind of keep the peace. We want him to
yeah,
continue to do that. We certainly don't want things to get too unstable, because Vander has probably sacrificed a lot in order to keep things this way. And so there's a lot at stake in regards to the idea of anybody having to be, put on trial or put in jail
yeah,
for this heist. And so it was very interesting how engaging these characters are and how much you understand their struggles.
yeah.
I
And
wouldn't,
it was nice for me to watch the episode again, because normally, seldomly, just because of all the content, you normally not always have the time to go back, even if you like a series like Squid Game. I watched Squid Game once. Even it was great, probably won't have the time. But it was nice to go back to Arcane and watch the first episode again. Now that I was more aware what will become of the characters, and it was great to see the first episode again. And I will look forward to see episode 2 again before I do
I
the,
do,
the
I do
second one.
as well. And I think that this particular series, after you saw this first episode, you knew it was something special.
Yeah,
It certainly was not going to be an ordinary story, and it's incredibly engaging, and quite a bit of mystery spurred in that first episode. And so you
yeah,
almost have to watch the second episode to continue on. So
yeah. And for me,
I
it
just
was just unexpected that a video game adaptation from a MOBA uh, game, which is not a story-driven game in itself, could transfer to probably the best video game adaptation that we've got to this thing.
Yes, I agree. And I'm just so happy that they did it, and also that we're very lucky to get so many episodes.
Yeah, 9 episodes, and considering even the length, 40 minutes. Every episode is 40 minutes.
Every episode was 40 minutes, and they certainly.
And normally with normal anime shows like Demon Slayer, you get 22 minutes.
Like that.
You get the previously, and you get a little bit of what will come ahead. So you've probably got about 19 minutes new stuff, considering one episode. But
right.
Here there was no previously. It was really almost 40 minutes, and you've gotten almost a 2-hour movie every week. Because for me, what was great, normally I am more of a binge fan, and Arcane was split in 3 times 3. Your lights a little bit.
Yeah.
and Arcane was split, weekly in 3 episodes. But considering, we will get to it later, the story structure, it totally fit for me, considering the story structure, to make breaks at that point for 1 week. And but you already got 2 hours per week. So for me, that was already totally fine by me.
Also,
that's all you can do.
The episode doesn't have any downtime. So, there isn't any kind of like gaps, or it feels like the story isn't progressing. This is a continual progression of the story. And I really liked it. And also in this episode, we really kind of got a sense of what it must be like to be in this underground world where Vi and Powder live, and how, they really do. I'm not going to say that they necessarily justify the fact that they went and did this heist, but I can say that they justified that, these young girls and the people down in the underworld deserve a better life than what they've had to endure in the underworld.
Yeah. And it's great. The series pulls you first in with the visuals, see, you think, oh, this is great animated stuff. But then the story takes almost over, I would say. You still appreciate the great visuals, but it's not the visuals alone that makes the series.
Well, you make a really good point, Dieter. And as I've said before, I forgot that this was an animated series.
Yeah.
This didn't feel like animation to me. Yeah. It felt,
For me,
honestly,
it was really, really next level on the animated side. But
yes,
like I said, I don't know how much the show really cost or how long they worked on it to make it look this good. Considering Masters of the Universe, it's nicely drawn, nice animated, but this is on another level.
Well, yes, this is a much more sophisticated story, and also the animation in this story is more sophisticated, in my opinion, than the one in Masters of the Universe.
Just to mention it, it is a French animation studio who does the show. It's wait, probably have it here. The studio is called Fortiche, a French animation studio based in Paris. Is responsible for the show.
Particular...
And as far as I know it, they do all the marketing stuff for League of Legends. If they do little clips of characters, they are responsible for that too, I believe.
Well, they did an excellent job, and I haven't seen better animation anywhere, really. This was it also feels very modern, like a modern feel of animation, and I think that they really hit on something here, and they've won me over. I can't wait to see what else they come up with, and with that, I'm just going to end the first episode of our spoiler review of the Arcane episode 1. Thank you, Dieter, for joining me today to do this review.
For me, it was one of the best things that had come out this year.
I agree 100%, and I can't wait to review the second episode of the Arcane.
Especially since I had really no expectations. I don't play the game. I know just from my worker colleague how big the game is. I just saw the trailer. Oh, looks great, but I had no expectations going in. What I will get from the series.
I had no expectations either, and I have to say that I thought that the the way that they drew the characters was also just really beautiful. You know, they didn't make anybody except for some parts when necessary, they looked realistic. And, you know, I really like that they kept that realism in these characters so that you can kind of recognize the character
Yeah.
as they progress in the series, but also, you know, you understand, you know, who and what they are. And that recognition in a series is very important.
Yeah, like I told you, even if the season 2 will take, let's say, to 2023 until they are finished, I don't forget these characters. You know, I will not, like other series, if the next season comes and you have to think about, wait, what was the point where we left off last season? Okay, you have to get into it a little bit again. But those characters I will not forget. You know.
I won't either. And I just enjoyed episode 1 so much. And anyone who hasn't seen it, absolutely go ahead and watch this series. I recommend it highly. It's an incredible series.
Totally.
And thank you for joining us for this review of episode 1. And
See you on episode 2.
See you in episode 2, everybody. And remember,
if we did make any mistakes considering League of Legends, the lore of the characters, just let us know in the comments, you know?
Absolutely.
That we can avoid those mistakes for episode 2, since we don't know the game.
It is true. I'm not familiar with the game, but you don't have to be familiar with the game to enjoy the series.
Correct,
so.
And that is the great plus, you know.
Yes.
And even for the fans of the game, it's probably that it's great because, like I told you, as far as I know, it's a prequel to how the characters are already in the game presented.
Yeah, so for people who do play this game, this series must be quite a treat to them to see the backstory of these characters, and it's so well done.
Because they know the weapons that the characters use and when will they get those kind of weapons, you know.
And we're going to talk about all that stuff coming up too, because there's so much to talk about in this series and so much to enjoy. So thank you so much for watching, and remember, be kind.